It now being 2 o'clock, I will call the February 24th, 2025 Board of Selectmen meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded for cablecast and YouTube presentation by Area 58 Community Access Media. The video of this meeting is not to be considered an official public record. The approved minutes of the meeting will serve as the official record of the proceedings. Our first item agenda is a FY 26 budget update.
Sure. So I'll keep this relatively brief. We're still working on some of the numbers. We're running various scenarios to try to see if we can avoid the possibility of an override. And in terms of timeline and everything overall, I think it would make sense for this board to consider at your next meeting on March 10th whether or not you want to move forward with putting a ballot question on for a debt exclusion for the fire station. Because if you're going to be making a decision in that regard, it needs to be done sooner rather than later. So I would imagine that being an appropriate timeline if that gets scheduled then, and that would give Tara enough time as far as getting the ballots printed with that. The sense I get is that nobody really has much of an appetite for any sort of proposal of an override for fiscal 26. So I think we need to operate based on that assumption. We should have more refined numbers from the school folks by the end of this week as well.
My headset is we should, unless something changes, we should go ahead, even if we decide later to pass over it. Just the Town Properties Committee's been working on this for over a year, and, it may not pass a town meeting, or if it passes, it may not get through the ballot, but at least we should give the people a chance and to hear what we've been doing.
So you're feeling like Prop 2.5 unlikely, decision to be made on debt exclusion?
Yes.
So are we going to hear from Town Properties Committee beforehand, or have we heard what we're going to hear?
Not fully yet. But I just made the chair aware today, after talking with the Finance Committee chair, that it looks like the Selectmen should be making a decision on or about March 10th as far as whether or not that's going to appear on the ballot.
Are we considering them coming in and hearing
We could
about
certainly
the
do
station?
that.
I think probably we should at least do that, just to know what we're voting on.
I will extend that invitation to the full Town Properties Committee.
Yeah, and if John can be there, then because he's working, I'll do the update. But I'll make sure I've talked to him and have all the information.
I mean, I hate to add that little bit of work, but it's just for something that
it's
significant.
Sure. No. We do have a meeting set up for April 5th at the library for a whole review.
Good.
And we'll have at least one night meeting and maybe two prior to town meeting, so people get a chance to come in and listen to where we are.
Great.
Anything other? Okay. Social media policy review and engagement ideas. I put this on the agenda, requested it at the time because the paper was in effect folding, the Plympton Halifax Express. And I do monitor Plympton, Helping Plympton, and, a few other things, the Friends of the Dennett. See people ask questions, and then it goes into a do loop of everybody expressing their opinion, but we never get a chance to, the board and the town administrator really never get a chance to engage. And our present social media policy kind of says that we will not discuss business through social media, that if people want to ask questions, they can come in or they can write us. But it does seem to me that certainly for the people in the 20, 30, 40 age group, social media is the way they do business. I see it with the Recreation Committee, I see it with Pays, I see it with CASA, and I see it with just general people in Plympton helping Plympton. So I thought we should at least have a discussion about whether it makes sense when we see a question that comes through social media that we might want to engage on, that we do it through a town website, Facebook page, where we would put the question and sort of give an answer. That was one of the ideas I have, but just open to whatever you guys think.
I agree with you, John. Since I've been up here, I've discussed about the fact that our website is woefully in need of some type of updating and making it a little more interactive for people to use, and I do believe you're absolutely correct on saying that a lot of people in the younger generations, and even the older generations, are utilizing social media. And it's instantaneous. They're getting it on their phone nowadays, tablets, things like that, so it's, like I said, instantaneous. We get a blast out very quickly. There's the idea behind the police department originally using Twitter. If there's an emergency, we could get it out to people immediately, as opposed to waiting for an announcement through other means. So I wholeheartedly support that, especially in the possible closure of the local paper.
It sounds like they may go on, but we're not sure, so in any case, this might be another vehicle.
Yeah, Plan B.
Yep.
I think we also discussed last time, John, too, about the legal notices that have to be put out, that there has to be one source as well for that, too, so we'll have to think of that as well. So,
Yeah. I assume they have to be printed in the paper, though, correct?
yes, we discussed it last
The
time.
legal notices have to appear in a newspaper. They typically deem it of general circulation.
Okay, so Patriot Ledger would do Procter & Enterprise?
Correct.
Is there there is a cover paper, but it doesn't reach out to us.
I'm not certain.
I've seen it over at CVS, but
Okay.
it would have nothing on Plympton. It probably wouldn't make sense to put it there.
Better
Okay.
in a larger circulation is
Yeah.
Ledger of the Enterprise.
So maybe, Mark, you,
I don't know. I think I have to think about it a little. I kind of see landmines all over the place. Number one, I think we certainly have to check with town council on how easily we could drift into deliberation through social media. I could envision a problem when there is not agreement among us, and no agreement on what we put up. And I have no idea what other towns are doing. I think the open meeting law thing is a really big deal in this, and I see how easily could become quite complicated. I kind of wonder if we were going to do it, that we need one person, maybe the town admin, as the voice, and to avoid some of that, but I think it needs work before we start doing it.
I agree. I think you raise good issues, and probably we should start by reaching out to legal counsel, see what kind of, how much bandwidth we can have.
Sure. I mean, you could always start out, too, with something a little more objective, like maybe having all of the town departments and boards and committees. A few do already, but everybody look at what might be some frequently asked questions pertaining to their office or the functions of their board. We could get those put up on the website, or for the few that have it, we could have them take another look and update it. And then putting those features on social media, like, hey, have you ever wondered what X board or committee is working on or what they're doing? Another thing that I've seen done in another town just recently that I thought might be helpful, they have actual quarterly updates from all the department heads and from the town administrator that just quarterly get posted to the website. But then I think the key to Dana's point is more people access social media than our website. So I think putting it up on the website so that that's the official information source, but then putting the link on social media for quarterly updates from any of these departments. Or maybe we could pick out the highlights from some of them and do a separate post with that. Sometimes posts with graphics or pictures get more, they show up in people's feeds a little bit more. But I do think we need more of an active presence if we want to keep people engaged.
So maybe we should workshop this at a separate meeting, just, get some information from legal.
Sure.
Maybe if you can
I can
reach out
pursue
to some of
that.
your peers, see what they do in the different towns, and then maybe we could workshop a session on, does it make sense, and how would we do it?
And to Mark's point, also, as far as guidelines go, we could have that. Legal counsel, obviously, but one of the things that deals with that, as far as getting into these discussions, as both you gentlemen brought up, if you have clear guidelines that are posted on a regular basis, that protects what the actual integrity of that website is in that respect, because then people know what's expected of them and also their behaviors, similar to our meeting here,
Yeah.
as far as there's rules and regulations here too. You need to identify yourself and so forth. So that can help it. And the other side of it is that it would allow for people to be able to shut down some inappropriate comment and content, and it's clearly put out there as what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, and that we would have the right to, shut something like that down if necessary. But obviously, legal counsel would have to have an idea on it, but there's many social media guideline policies that are out there that could be utilized for this. So
Right. Good. So can I give you the action item to kind of
Yes,
help
absolutely.
shepherd it?
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Next, for discussion, we have the Old Townhouse action items and assignees. And I guess you talked at the last meeting?
We
about-
did, but we wanted to bring it back again since some of the items
Sure.
involved you and Plympton Historical Society.
Okay. You want to lead the discussion?
Sure. So the chairlift has been fixed again. We just have to make sure that people understand, even if they bump into it or something, if it's not returned back to the default position, it will drain the battery,
Yep.
and that's very costly for us.
I'm in there a couple of times a week. I'll make sure I check it.
Okay. For the smart thermostat, and John, you and I spoke about this, Ross McPherson he knows how to program it.
Right.
So I think if maybe Steve is the primary person to manage the thermostat in there, and then you had indicated you'd like to be a backup.
Yeah, for a couple of reasons. One is I am in and out of there, as part of the Historical Society. And Ross travels, and when he travels, it's at times he comes in on a Friday night and leaves on a Sunday. And I just don't want to bog him down with having to worry
Okay.
about, doing this. But we can put him third on the list,
Okay,
okay?
sounds good to me.
Great.
Okay.
The Wi-Fi is no longer a problem. The bigger.
I used it the other day, and it's great.
Good.
It works fine.
Good, I'm glad. We're finally getting some cost savings,
So
too.
that's the hotspot. that we're
Correct,
using, yeah.
correct.
We canceled the Wi-Fi.
Canceled the expensive one, and that's
great.
the equipment's been returned. So for the room that underwent the mold remediation, just to recap, ServPro did the mold remediation. All told, we probably spent around $10,000 between some of the preliminary emergency work and then the mold remediation. Currently, there's no insulation or wall covering. I had sought a recommendation from the Town Properties Committee regarding the heating vent, because that is an active heating vent in that room. The suggestion from Town Properties is to cover that over with plywood.
Or
and so-
another insulation.
Right,
Yeah.
and leave the room alone.
Yeah.
I brought this up at a meeting several months back. There seemed to be a little bit of interest in at least figuring out how much it would cost. We tried to solicit 3 ballpark quotes. One vendor never responded. The other 2 vendors, both from Plympton, one came back at $9,500, the other one came back at $5,380. And this would be to fully finish the room. So this is insulation, drywall, painting, installing the baseboard and window trim. It would be fully finished to completion. So that's a decision that I think the board would have to make if you wanted to move forward with that or not.
So the town properties position basically is, we don't know what we'd do with the room if we had it, so why not just cover the heating unit, and then when we do know how we want to use it, that'd be the time to finish it off. Mike?
Well, and I remember we had this discussion a few months ago. I sort of felt like if the money was available, why not finish this off and then this project being done, rather than find a use arising, but then having to go through this process and maybe it taking weeks or months. So certainly wanting to be frugal sooner or later, however, that room will have use, and since we're sort of dressed up and have the quotes and I think have the funds somewhere, why not get it done? I mean, I don't...
Funds are going to be an issue. I mean, whether it goes to this or goes to the school or goes wherever.
We have our town building maintenance account.
So I'd be inclined to just go ahead and be done with it. I am not ardently wedded to that position, but I do float it out there.
My concern would be going backwards after being remediated at $10,000, that if it stays the way it is, that you haven't finished it, it's like halfway there, and I wouldn't want to see us go backwards and have to pay for another remediation and then actually finish the room. And to Mark's point, it is a very valid point that if there is a use that's found, now you got to hold that use back and then figure out what's going to happen. But my main concern would be we've already spent $10,000 on it and in remediation costs, and it is opening it to not finishing it.
Well, part of it was, it's now tight. I mean, before we had a roof that leaked, the door wasn't correct. So some of the money that we're talking about that was spent was getting it to a point where it's now insulated, it's weatherproof. It's, when you go in the room, it's just studs. There's no wallboard, there's no insulation. There is insulation between the old townhouse, the other part, but there's no insulation on the back where it's the back of the building.
To the outside.
Yeah. So, I don't think we're losing anything by not doing anything.
Do you think that quote, the low quote, is still valid?
I would assume so. Do you want me to reach out, and if it's still valid, we move ahead, and if it's going to be any more money than that, or if something doesn't check out, if we check around like references or something, then we press pause and...
I would agree with that.
I think I agree with that, too. I don't know if you want an actual vote.
You'll have to make a motion. Yeah, I do.
All right, I make a motion that Liz proceed with checking out the low quote as to whether that's still valid, and if so, moving forward on this project.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Opposed.
Okay. Then the final item for discussion is the lighting situation outside. We did have somebody attend the last meeting who expressed some concerns. As an update to that, there is a street light located down the street that we were alerted to at our last meeting that seemed like it was shining at an odd angle. Bridgette did investigate that, and there is a problem with it, something to do with the outer covering. So she obtained the pole number, and there has been a ticket put in with Eversource to fix that. And then as far as the post at the old townhouse, the street light is on one side. There were no proposed changes to that, excuse me, at this point. On the opposite side of that same pole, though, there is a square floodlight that illuminates a lot more than just the front of the old townhouse. Bree has put in a request with Eversource to remove that and simultaneously is going to work with Town Properties Committee and an electrician to get pricing and figure out next steps for getting more appropriate lighting for that building that would illuminate the parking lot and the entrances, but be pointed more downwards so that it's not obtrusive to the neighbors.
So as I understand it, that big rectangular thing that shines on the building has been off for a few days. Is that true, neighbors or butters?
Yeah, so Eversource may have already killed power to it, and then I think they're going to go and physically remove it.
Okay, so that's going. The street light we're stuck with?
Yeah, you
For
want a street light.
now, I mean, there is an intersection there, and even the Eversource folks expressed some concerns with us when we talked about disabling that, and that's not an easy process. The floodlight is, yeah, I think that's important for safety.
Needs to be there.
It needs to be there.
I think I was wondering whether there were options or potentially something there, but less intrusive. Might well be dreaming, just
So that can definitely be
Well,
accomplished for the
You
building.
all are right
but-
there. What do you feel now that we've shut off the spotlight?
Well, that certainly is better. When we moved in, the street light was on some kind of motion sensor. So when if you're out there walking the dogs at 11 o'clock at night and heard a car starting to come up Main Street, the light would gradually come on, be full when they got there, and then gradually go off again. Bree did tell me that Eversource does not have that available anymore. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a troublesome corner to me that it needs a light. But I don't think it shines in your room.
Yeah, you wanna? Yeah, I was wondering, could it just be brought down a little bit lower so that it...
Do you mean lower in height or lower in brightness?
Lower in height and then some type of a shield so that it actually is really directed at the intersection and not like just general, I don't know.
I could check with them on the height. As far as brightness, they were converting all of their streetlights over to an LED type option, and my understanding is that there's no ability to dim those or even to change the tone. Like, some of them are very harsh, and they're aware of it, but it doesn't sound like their current technology or the equipment that's being used facilitates the ability to dim them. We had inquired about a shield at one point and were told no, but we could inquire again, certainly. And I can ask about the height, if that would be beneficial.
That would even make a difference.
We can definitely look into that, but as far as the building goes, we are going to look into more appropriate lighting for that building that would help illuminate, like, pointing downwards so that it illuminates the parking lot or the entryways, like when people are coming and going.
I would love, I know we've looked into it and it might well be futile, but I'd love to have that looked into as you described some more. I will just say as an aside, obviously, safety is really important. On the other hand, that intersection, there are clear sight lines, it's night, cars coming in any direction are pretty obvious because they're headlights, and it sort of seems to me like the street light is a bit superfluous, particularly in a residential.
I don't see it.
I disagree.
Yeah. I mean, it's like any place that you have streetlights every so often.
And especially at intersections.
Yeah.
To be illuminated for safety reasons. That's why it's done that way.
Got it. In any event, I'd really appreciate just exploring once more if there's anything else.
Will do.
So I came from the Cape Sandwich, and a lot of the lights were on timers in residential areas, and not on timers like downtown Sandwich. But on my street, the light went off somewhere around 10:30, 11 o'clock, and then that was it. It didn't come back on until the next night, somewhere around 6 or 7 in the winter, and then it stayed on again until like 11. So I don't know, I mean, I live there, so I hear the traffic. It's pretty quiet after about 11.
Except the guy that comes to Nest Bill, it's a responsible.
Well, yeah.
He doesn't need the street.
We know where they live. Yeah, so it was just another suggestion. I don't know if they do that in other towns. I just know in Sandwich for sure they did in the neighborhood I live.
Okay, we can definitely inquire.
It may be that, it turns out most towns, I think in Plymouth County, I was told there were only 3 towns that don't own their own poles.
Correct.
And Plympton's one of the 3.
Oh, yeah, no, we did in Sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah, so it may be that you had more control because you own the
okay.
pole.
Yeah,
Okay.
We'll look into it.
great.
Anything else? Okay. Warrant article updates?
So far we have a lot of the standard articles. I did ask Tara to look into the cost if we were to change to select board as far as the codified bylaws are concerned. It sounds like probably a little over $1,000,
Okay.
give or take. And I'm getting a slightly more refined estimate from General Code from that company. And they sent us, they were actually very helpful from General Code. They sent us a couple different suggestions for town meeting language to pick from. And as far as any big ticket items, Highway Department is looking this year for $250,000 instead of the customary $200,000 for roadway work. That generally comes from capital. Last year, we went lower than 200, if you recall. But they feel a need to really get caught up, so that's in there as a placeholder right now. Obviously, we can revisit that, but that's like the only one that's really sticking out right now as far as like a large request.
I'm aware they got 111,000 Chapter 90 money supplemental.
Right.
And it seems to me that that should be enough, but we'll discuss it as we get closer.
Great. And then as far as warrants paid, Bree is not here, so we'll have to hold that until next time.
Okay. You want to do your updates?
Sure. So we've just been busy really working on all of the budget preparations. I was in touch with Jason Frazier and John Williamson today regarding the school figures, so more to come on that. I think we'll have more definitive information by like later this week. And as far as some of the budget scenarios that we've been looking at, if we're going to avoid an override, I do think we're going to have to tap into general stabilization a little bit. Not nearly as much as that completely outrageous scenario that we were originally looking at, but I definitely think we're going to have to tap into that if we want to avoid an override. I feel like the cost of everything is just, it's catching up with us, and
Yeah, as we get closer, I think that's certainly,
I think we're going to have to look at all
Discuss it,
those
yeah.
funding sources and,
Am I remembering right that tapping into stabilization will need a positive vote from FinCom, from us, and a 2/3 vote from town meeting?
it's a 2/3 vote at town meeting.
Not
but I think
the
Mark's
first
right, you do have
Yeah,
that finance.
finance and BOS.
Okay.
So been busy with all that.
Any other?
Nope.
Any correspondence?
Nope.
Minutes?
Bree sent you the minutes from February 13th.
And I wasn't here, so I'm going to just,
So if I may, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
All those in favor?
I'll abstain because I'm not.
Aye.
Aye. Did it.
All right. Board of Selectmen raves. Let's see, we have two, the open meetings coming up is March 10th and March 24th.
Correct. And I may need to reach out to you guys about the time for the 24th.
Yeah, I saw the note.
Yeah, Mark sent a note, so we'll
Okay.
figure that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have a rave?
little underprepared. My rave is for the angle of the sun, that rising angle of sun that we mammals, birds, reptiles all sort of notice. A harbinger of spring on many levels. Our level, a harbinger of budget and town meeting. So all of that's happening, and the rave is for us moving forward that way, and a harbinger of good things.
Dana, yeah, anything you want?
I'm good. Thank you.
So my rave, I had the good fortune to reach out to the two grannies on the road, and they came to Plympton. If you don't know them, they are two ladies, grandmothers, who are going around to visit every town in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so there's 354 towns. They've done 94, well, now it's 95 with Plympton. One of the things that came out of that was they videotape the places. So they went to the equine center and videotaped that. And my thought was we should have those up on the town website. It's a great way for people in Plympton who have never been in there, which is most people. The owner, Mark Riley, had actually operated on a horse that day and took us through how it works, what the different rooms are for. So it seems to me that some of those pieces should be things we're putting up there on the town website. I think people would like it. And I just have a rave for the fact that they're doing it and very professional. So
I would think that we could actually share that onto the town Facebook page, if that's what you're referring to.
I have done that, but maybe because it comes from me, nobody reads it. But yeah, we should put it on the town.
Okay,
I think
we can do
might be
that.
a stopgap in between before doing something formally on the website, but that'll be more delving into, as
Yeah.
Mark had said, about the legal issues and so forth, too. But
So they've broken it up into about 4 parts. So one is on the Equine Center, one is Martha Burns and I had the opportunity to take them around town to, like, the old townhouse, et cetera. One was on Marilyn Brown, opened up her house, the Deborah Sanson house, which was really nice. And then they also met with the Mercantile, Jen and Mike. And they talked not just about what they do there, but also about the Murdoch House, the Walnut Inn now, I guess they call it. So I think people would find it interesting.
Okay,
Okay?
can get that
Okay.
up there.
With no further ado, I'll make a motion that we close the Board of Selectmen's meeting of February 24th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.